The top stories tonight in Y News. Malacanang will let the Department of the Interior and Local Government to file charges against the DENR in opening the Manila Baywalk Dolomite Beach.
Metro Manila local government units implement various schemes in cemeteries in anticipation of large crowds on October 29.
The Department of Science and Technology is willing to share the results of their studies on adjunct treatments versus COVID-19. A farmers group recommends managing the entry of rice imports amid the low buying price of palay.
The 38th and 39th Association of Southeast Asian Nation or ASEAN Summit officially opens without Myanmar.
Mark Zuckerberg deals with Facebook information leak. Good evening, Philippines and the world. We are now reporting live from Quezon City. Today is Tuesday, October 26, 2021. I am Hardin Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I'm Mangelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. Local government officials may be held liable over expired and wasted COVID-19 vaccines. In an interview, Interior and Local Government Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya said that they have field officers in cities and municipalities across the country who monitors the LGU's performance. Meanwhile, the Department of Health anticipates inoculation of senior citizens, immunocompromised individuals, and healthcare workers with third doses and booster shots may spill over into 2022. The Philippine government will allot around 7 million doses for the third and booster shots of some priority groups. 2 million doses for healthcare workers and 5 million doses for immunocompromised individuals and senior citizens. On the other hand, the government eyes to finish the COVID-19 vaccination of minors by December of this year so it can focus on giving third dose or booster shots to the eligible sector.
Ang inano po namin talaga matapos po yung children vaccination by December kasi magkakahalo-halo na po yung vaccination natin sa third dose at saka first dose.
The Department of Science and Technology is continuously studying the adjunctive treatments against COVID-19 like virgin coconut oil and lagundi. They are also willing to share the results of these clinical trials. Aiko Miguel details why live. Aiko, are we the only country studying these adjunctive treatments against COVID-19?
Arlene, virgin coconut oil is also being studied in Indonesia, but not particularly for the treatment of those with mild COVID-19 symptoms. The Department of Science and Technology also said no other country seemed to use lagundi as an adjunctive or supplemental treatment against the virus, but other countries have manifested to use it. Here is Dr. Jaime Montoya, the Executive Director of the DOST-PCHRD.
As far as symptom relief is concerned, that we see in COVID-19, I'm not familiar, I'm not aware of any other study in the world that has done that, at least for lagundi. This is actually publicly funded, so it is available to developers. If they think they can use this study, well and good. Kung halimbawa, mayroong mga interesado na gamitin ito, especially for use in other countries, of course, by all means, we will make it available.
Arlene, some pharmaceutical companies did market studies in the ASEAN region and in the United States, and there are takers for lagundi to be brought in other countries. Here is DOST Secretary Fortunato de la Peña.
There is demand for lagundi in other countries. Okay, that is what we know.
DOST also reported that patients with mild COVID-19 and without comorbidities felt relieved after taking Lagundi tablets and syrup.
But in terms of symptoms, no, there was a faster relief of symptoms for anosmia and several of the other symptoms, usually by day 4 and day 8, mas mababa na yung mga symptom scores na nakikita dun sa Lagundi group.
Overall, sa pangkalahatan ko, yung mga simptomas ay mas mabilis, mas maganda ang nangyari doon sa mga binigyan na Lagundi kumpara doon sa hindi binigyan na Lagundi. Yung pong pagkawala ng pang-amoy, no, kung iisa-isahin po natin lahat ng mga simptomas na nakikita sa may COVID-19, pag tiningnan niyo po yung pagkawala ng pang-amoy, ito po yung nakitang malaking diferensya po, pagkakaiba. Mas marami po ang kaagad na gumaling o numbalik po yung pang-amoy doon sa mga binigyan ng Lagundi kumpara doon sa mga hindi binigyan ng Lagundi.
Arlene, Lagundi is also now a part of the home care package being finalized by the Department of Health. This will be distributed to individuals with mild to moderate symptoms and are allowed to isolate at home. Also, according to DOST, virgin coconut oil or VCO could be used as adjunct supplement to suspect and probable cases due to its viral and immunomodulatory properties.
The relief from COVID-19 symptoms in the VCO group was already at day 18, meaning to say completely healed. Compared to the control group, this was experienced on day 23 only. So the recovery is really very fast and faster in the VCO group.
Arlene, DOST said that VCO and Lagundi has no established benefit yet for hospitalized patients as analysis of hospital trial results is still ongoing. Dr. Montoya, however, said it will not take too long for the Philippine Food and Drug Administration to grant approval to use this as alternative treatment for COVID-19. And that is the latest live. Back to you, Harley.
Thank you, Aiko Miguel, reporting live.
Meanwhile, local government units in Metro Manila implements various schemes in cemeteries in preparation of large crowd expected to visit on October 29. JP Nunez will tell us why live. Yes, JP, go ahead.
Yes, William, good evening. Barangay coding scheme is being implemented in cemeteries in Pasig City. This is to control the number of visitors and avoid overcrowding. All Pasig City residents who will visit the cemetery needs to show Pasig Pass QR code and identification card as proof of residency. Vaccination card is also acceptable. The schedule of visit of each barangay is posted in the Pasig City Public Information Facebook page. In Mandaluyong City, bringing home urns from the columbarium will be allowed for a week to avoid crowding. Meanwhile, the Manila North Cemetery will not implement time restrictions. Visitors can stay in the cemeteries from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m.
Nung una, talagang iniisip namin na more than 50,000 yung papasok sa Manila North Cemetery nung last weekends natin, pero so far hindi naman po na-meet yung ganong kataas na bilang. Naging 20,000 plus lang po ang dumating nung Sunday, then nung nakaraang Saturday ay nasa 14,000 plus lang. Plus kahapon, 8,000 lang po ang dumalaw po sa loob ng Manila North. So tingin ko kung sa influx ng tao, hindi na rin siguro sila ganun kalaki pagdating ng last day natin na October 28.
Meanwhile, more than 800 illegal items were confiscated today in Manila North Cemetery. The administration continues to remind the public to avoid bringing flammable materials, pointed or sharp objects, alcoholic beverages, and gambling items.
Lahat po iniiwan na po namin dito. Pag dito pa lang po, pag na-check, iwan na po. Pero pag iniwan po, already confiscated na yun. Lahat po ng items natin na nakukumpiska po, tina-turn over po natin sa command center. Tapos command center to the precinct po.
That is our latest live. Back to you, William.
Thank you, JP Nunez, reporting live. Metropolitan Manila Development Authority Chairman Ben-Hur Abalos inspected some cemeteries in Metro Manila 2 days before its temporary closure on October 29. Abalos visited the Manila North Cemetery in Manila and Garden of Life Park in Mandaluyong City. He checked if these cemeteries are complying to the Interagency Task Force on the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases guidelines. The agency also deployed additional manpower in joint coordination with the local government units and the police to assist in these cemeteries and to man the traffic within its vicinity. Chairman Abalos also expressed his gratitude to the Metro Manila mayors for their initiatives to help keep the cemeteries within their jurisdiction compliant to the guidelines of the IATF.
The Philippines recorded 4,393 new cases of novel coronavirus disease or COVID-19, pushing the nationwide case count to 2,765,672. In its latest bulletin, the Department of Health, or DOH, said that the number of active cases in the country is down to 53,642. Of these, 74.8% are mild, 10.37% are moderate, 6.7% are symptomatic, 5.8% are severe, and 2.4% are in critical condition. Meanwhile, 8,470 new survivors were logged. This brought the recovery tally to 2,669,953. The death toll, however, climbed to 42,077 after 135 more patients died. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has topped 244,171,008, while the deaths have surged to 4,958,308 according to the Johns Hopkins University. The US is still the worst hit country with the world's highest number of cases and deaths, followed by India and Brazil.
An election watchdog group urges the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, to expand the scope of the local absentee voting. Dante Amento tells us why live. Yes, Dante, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, William. The Paris Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, or PPCRV, says the expansion of scope of the local absentee voting would allow more voters to cast their votes ahead of the election day on May 9, 2022. And this will help the voters' turnout to improve.
Palalawakin pa yung sectors na pwedeng bumoto, including all our teachers na magsaserve as electoral boards. So makakabawas talaga ito. So pagpalagay natin na during the presidential election na ang voters turnout ay umaabot lang ng mga close to 70%. So kahit umabot pa siya ng 80%.
Local absentee voting is for those who will not be able to go to voting precincts on election day. These include members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Philippine National Police, media, and government employees. Voting will be only limited to national positions, including party list representatives. PPCRB National Trustee and Secretary Dr. Arwin Serrano said they have already relayed this proposal to the COMELEC, but the COMELEC has yet to release its reaction over this issue. William, based on the COMELEC resolution number 10695, the last date to file application to avail of local absentee voting will be on March 7, 2022, and voting by local absentee voters would be on April 27 to 29, 2022. And that's the latest live from Quezon City. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you, Dante Amento, for that live report. And in other news, President Rodrigo Duterte joined fellow leaders in virtually attending the 38th and 39th Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN Summit, and related summits hosted by Brunei. Meanwhile, the ASEAN Summit officially opens without Myanmar. Rosa de Cos details why.
The 38th and 39th Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN Summit, and related summits officially began today. President Rodrigo Duterte virtually attended the first day of conference together with other world leaders. President Duterte will take part in discussing COVID-19 pandemic, recovery, and other issues.
The President will exchange views with his counterparts on the region's COVID-19 response and recovery efforts, ASEAN community building initiatives, and regional and international developments.
The ASEAN summits are expected to adopt more than 20 outcome documents on various issues of primary concern. Meanwhile, the regional conference started without Myanmar. Myanmar refused to send its representative to the three-day conference in protest to the exclusion of its top general. ASEAN is made up of Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Apart from ASEAN leaders, the summits will also be joined by its dialogue partners such as China, United States, Japan, Australia, Republic of Korea, India, and the Russian Federation. This year's ASEAN Summit is being hosted by Brunei Darussalam. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A farmers group recommends managing the entry of rice imports amid the low buying price of palay. Nel Maribuhok, who will tell us why.
Managing of rice importation will surely help the local farmers. The Federation of Free Farmers Cooperatives says this will definitely make local rice competitive in the market.
Find a way to manage the entry of imports. No? Kasi yan po ang nagpapababa talaga ng presyo every time mag-peak harvest sa September, October, November. No?
Local farmers were dismayed by the low buying price of palay due to the import surge as a result of the rice tariffication law. According to the Bureau of Plant and Industry, they are now managing the issuance of sanitary and phytosanitary import clearance in such way that import arrival will not coincide with the peak local harvest of local farmers. But BPI-DA Director George Colaste admitted that they have a problem with the provision of the rice tariffication law regarding the automatic approval of the SPSIC.
Even if the BPI will not act upon their application, it will not be reviewed, it will not be endorsed. After I will be able to approve it, still it will be automatically approved after a period of 7 days. That's the problem, Mr. Chair, Your Honors.
According to the National Economic and Development Authority, the low price of palay should not be due to rice importation.
We think that the low palay prices being experienced in some areas is primarily due to the lack of bargaining power of farmers.
Currently, the price of fresh palay is at 9 to 19 pesos per kilo, average of 12 to 23 pesos per kilo for dry palay. Nueva Ecija 1st District Representative Estrelita Swansing believes that the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund or RCEF should be monitored.
We have to monitor the implementation of the RCEF. Malaking tulong ito because this will help reduce the production cost.
RCEF is a crucial component of the rice tariff law and supposed to help lower the production cost of Filipino rice farmers. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Philippine and South Korean trade officials formally concluded negotiations on a free trade agreement. This is expected to boost trade and investment ties between the two countries. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez said through the FTA, banana exports to South Korea will be duty-free in 5 years and zero duty in 7 years for canned pineapples.
The Cusi faction of ruling party PDP-Laban maintains Senator Ronald De La Rosa is their standard bearer for now. Arlene Delgado will tell us why.
Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi, who heads a faction in PDP-Laban, revealed he was not aware of the meeting between their standard-bearer, Senator Ronald de la Rosa, and presidential daughter Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio. Cusi said de la Rosa remains as their presidential candidate unless something happens until the deadline for substitution on November 15.
Sa ngayon, si Bato ang aming pambato. No? Unless that is something happens between now and the 15th, siya po yung aming kandidato. Personally, myself and the PDP, wala po kaming communication kay Mayor Inday. Hindi naman kasi nasabi sa akin ni Senator Bato. Napag-usapan siguro, natanong siguro ni Senator Bato kung tutuloy siya. And kung tutuloy siya, then she has until November 15th.
Cusi believes De La Rosa is now getting traction and will have a good fight in his presidential bid. He adds, should President Duterte change his mind, they will go back to the original plan of a Go Duterte tandem. The PDP-Laban Cusi faction signed an alliance with Reform Party, headed by former Magdalo member and now DICT Assistant Secretary James Layug. The party will support vice presidential aspirant Senator Christopher Bongo and 3 senatoriables. However, Layug says the party has yet to decide on endorsing De La Rosa as they are still in the selection and vetting process. Meanwhile, other presidential aspirants conducted events in various parts of the country. Senator Manny Pacquiao visited Benguet, where he met with flood and landslide victims. There, he vowed to look into the alleged overpriced flood control projects in the province. He also went to Pangasinan, where crowds can be seen in the event area. Meanwhile, Senator Panfilo Lacson also went in Batangas to meet with transport groups where they discussed issues and proposed reforms in the transport sector. Vice President Leni Robredo, on the other hand, attended the virtual turnover of livelihood assistance to various groups. The official start of the campaign period for national candidates in the 2022 elections is on February 8, 2022 to May 7, 2022. Jorlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The arrest order against Pharmally executives Mohit and Twinkle Dargani has yet to be served. Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Chief Retired General Rene Samonte said their teams went back to the condominium units of the Darganis this weekend, but they were not there. They also checked the house as tipped by an informant, but to no avail. Samonte adds they are being assisted by the Philippine National Police, barangay officials, and even the subdivision and condominium admin staff. Meanwhile, a subpoena has been issued to Pharmally's chief accountant, Jeff Mariano. The 13th Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing will continue on Thursday, October 28.
And for the news abroad, it has been made public on Monday that the Australian government will be providing $1.33 billion in funding to the country's largest telecom company, Telstra, in buying out Digicel, the largest telco in the Pacific. Despite the acquisition being largely funded by the Australian government and Telstra only contributing $270 million, Telstra is said to hold 100% of Digicel's equity. The deal, amounting to a total of $1.6 billion, has prompted policy experts to say that this move by the government is obviously to prevent China from securing communications infrastructure in the region. However, according to Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, the deal is part of the country's commitment to step up its engagement in the Pacific region. Digicel currently operates in 6 countries in the Pacific, such as in Fiji, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Tonga, and Vanuatu. The U.S. federal government plans to require billionaires to pay taxes on their accumulated wealth in a new income tax proposal. Marvin Delfin explains why live. Yes, Marvy. Ariel, the U.S. Democrats will unveil a new billionaires tax this week. This new tax scheme aims to help fund the country's social services and climate change projects under President Joe Biden's administration. In this new tax plan, wealthy Americans would need to pay taxes on their accumulated assets, such as stocks, real estate, and artworks on an annual basis. Moreover, corporations would also be required to pay a minimum of 15% tax regardless of their profit. benefits. President Biden highlighted his proposals for expanding social services such as childcare and infrastructure measures. And according to him, the objective is to ensure that people making less than $400,000 won't pay more taxes, while those earning above $400,000 will have an increased tax of 39.6% from 37%.
Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to make sure that we pay for everything without anyone making less than $400,000 paying a single cent more in taxes. That's my objective.
Meanwhile, this tax plan tallies to at least $1.75 trillion, and U.S. Democrats are rushing to get this through Congress in time for the next G20 meeting of the world leaders. Marielle? Marvy, how did the critics respond to this new tax plan? Marielle, some critics said that this new tax scheme will force billionaires to draw back from the stock market. However, overall, the billionaire tax is deemed to have an appeal as it is being prepared to roll out. According to Treasury report, top 1% of taxpayers ranked by income failed to pay $163 billion in taxes last year, widening the country's growing tax gap. Back to you, Marielle. Thank you, Marvy Delfin, for that live report. Militaries seized power over Sudan and detained the Prime Minister and other government officials on Monday. Therese Longbowen reports why live. Good evening, Therese. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Marielle. Sudan's transitional government was dissolved as the military led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan seized power. Al-Burhan said political infighting threatened the country's stability. A state of emergency was declared with major parts of internet and mobile networks cut off, while entrances, bridges, and airports were closed in the country's capital, Khartoum. Thousands took to the streets in several cities, demanding the return to civilian government, causing at least 7 deaths by gunfire and around 140 injured. Several government officials were also detained by the armed forces, including Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok and his wife. Many officials expressed their condemnation of the ongoing military coup, including the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Secretary General strongly condemns the ongoing military coup d'etat in Khartoum and all actions that could jeopardize Sudan's political transition and stability. The Secretary General calls for the immediate reconstitution of the governing arrangements provided under the constitutional document.
Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Therese Longbowen, for that live report. The United States of America lifts its international travel ban for fully vaccinated individuals. At the same time, tightens the restrictions further for those who remain unvaccinated. Queenie Rivera will tell us why live. Yes, Queenie.
Good evening, Marielle. President Joe Biden's administration will now strictly focus on whether individuals are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 before allowing them the freedom to travel to the country as a means to push for vaccine compliance. At the same time, Biden hopes that by making it more inconvenient and more restrictive for those who still choose to remain unvaccinated, more individuals, both American and foreign, will be motivated to start joining the vax community. The new policy comes as the government starts to move away from non-essential travel restrictions, which barred almost 30 countries. The decision also comes in part after Biden received pressure from its European allies after opening their borders to its American visitors. Starting on 8th of November, various airlines working with the government will enforce new guidelines and procedures. Airlines who are found non-compliant with these guidelines will be fined approximately $35,000 per violation, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The new procedures include verification of approved vaccine records, enhanced swab testing, and necessary contact tracing. Vaccinated travelers will have to show a negative swab within 3 days of travel, while those unvaccinated will be required to show those proof within 1 day of travel. There are very limited exceptions dedicated for children under 18 years old, individuals medically unfit to get vaccinated, those traveling for emergency reasons, and non-tourist visas from countries with vaccine shortages. Other than that, the new requirements will strictly be implemented. Travel industry analyst Henry Hartveld expects that many travelers will be disappointed by this new policy. On the other hand, the airline industry trade group Airlines for America has praised the administration for its decision. Marielle?
Queenie, what approved vaccines are required by the U.S. according to its new requirements?
Marielle, the U.S. government will only accept vaccines approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration or by the World Health Organization, both for regular and emergency use. This includes vaccines by Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Sinopharm, and Sinovac. Mix and match vaccines are also permitted. Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Queenie Rivera, for that live report. Dissemination of Facebook internal information has caused another publicity struggle to the company, and its CEO Mark Zuckerberg profusely discredited this collaborative effort, stating it is done selectively to defame the company. Nina Armilio will tell us why.
Amid the success of social media giant Facebook, CEO Mark Zuckerberg faces perhaps its biggest crisis in its 17-year history, one of which is the allegations relating to a trove of Facebook files leaked by a whistleblower. These include tens of thousands of internal documents and further information protection from 17 U.S. news organizations, as well as hearings from U.S. and UK lawmakers. These documents delve deeper into Facebook's many ostracizing issues relating to its failure to regulate hate speech, misinformation, and human trafficking. Facebook discarded many of these reports, stating its failure to perceive their research and analysis.
Good faith criticism helps us get better. But my view is that what we are seeing is a coordinated effort to selectively use leaked documents to paint a false picture of our company.
Zuckerberg's final comment undermined the whistleblower's credibility. He also mentioned how making unique progress can be affected by the reality of an open culture that encourages discussion and research on many complex points. In line with this, Facebook profited close to $9.2 billion, up to 70% from 12 months prior, in addition to an increase of Facebook's app subscription from a variety of household individuals. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Maria Latoza reporting live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
The Manila City government says that the Department of Environment and Natural Resources committed violations in opening the Dolomite Beach in Manila Bay. The palace, however, lets the Department of the Interior and Local Government to decide whether to file cases against the agency. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why live. Yes, Asher, good evening.
Good evening, Arlene. The Manila City government says that no coordination was made with them about the opening of the Dolomite Beach located in the nation's capital. Manila City Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso explains that this led to overcrowding in the area while people violated minimum public health standards, particularly social distancing. Department of the Environment and Natural Resources spokesperson Undersecretary Benny Antiporda, however, explains that the reported violations of social distancing measures at the Dolomite Beach last Sunday morning was immediately addressed by implementing the 5-minute rule. However, Mayor Dumagoso urges the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases to file cases against the DNR who manages the Dolomite Beach. DNR Undersecretary Jonas Leones, on the other hand, says they only received a letter from the Manila LGU expressing support on the Dolomite Beach rehabilitation efforts, but also inquiring about the measures to address the crowding in the area.
So yun lang yung information na kuha ko. I just don't know kung I have not read yung statement ni
ni Mayor Isko. Siguro tingnan namin kung paano. We'll coordinate with the good mayor doon sa statement. But yun yung letter na receive ko kagabi, yung letter nila sa LGU.
Meanwhile, the Malacanang says they will let the Department of the Interior and local government to decide if it will consider the appeal of the Manila City Mayor in filing charges against the DNR over the violations. The UNTV News and Rescue tries to get the DILG's side on the matter, but has yet to respond to our query. But to avoid overcrowding in the Dolomite Beach, the DNR imposes new guidelines in the entry of visitors. These include allowing a maximum of 4,000 to 5,000 visitors within the area at any given time, while implementing a scheduling system as cinema approach, where visitors are allowed to stay only for 2 hours to allow other individuals to enter the Dolomite Beach. Minors aged 11 years old and below are also banned to enter the area. Furthermore, the Dolomite Beach will not be open to public every Friday for maintenance work. Arlene, the Dolomite Beach will also be closed on Friday, the 29th of October until the 2nd of November. Arlene?
Thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr. reporting live. And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 10. It says, "The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe." And those are the reasons behind the news, October 26, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Good faith criticism helps us get better. But my view is that what we are seeing is a coordinated effort to selectively use leaked documents to paint a false picture of our company.
Overall, sa pangkalahatan ko, yung mga simptomas ay mas mabilis, mas maganda ang nangyari doon sa mga binigyan na lagundi kumpara doon sa hindi binigyan.
Ay, hinahayaan na po namin yan sa DILG, no? At sa ating kapulisan, no? Kasama na po ang lokal na pamahalaan ng Maynila.